Hey guys, welcome, and good morning, everybody. It's David R. Becker here with Becker Art, and I'm here to do a demo today for you guys. It's almost like yesterday. I don't know if anybody was doing the, Gouache Live? I was on Gouache Live just for an ad, basically for Holbein. I was talking about gouache. But here you get it for free, and you get a lot of different things I'm going to be talking about. It's just I got in here a little bit late, by 1 minute, but I was looking at this book right here, Bert Silverman. I don't know if you ever know Bert Silverman, but love his work. He stopped doing watercolors, but in his I have two books of his, Breaking the Rules of Watercolor, and this one, Painting People. And it was just it's so neat to watch and be inspired by other artists, and so now that we have the internet, you can find all these people's work on the internet with their websites and stuff. But I always suggest, get inspired by other artists. Hopefully you get inspired by me by doing these demonstrations, and it makes you paint a lot. And so here, let's go, right? And so I just found this image online yesterday, and I was going to do a plein air, but I'm doing so much plein air coming up that I just needed to get this done. I've been traveling back and forth. I just got back from Dillman's, and so Dillman's is a workshop area up in northern Wisconsin, and it's a super fun place to do a workshop. If you ever get up there, get a chance to take a workshop from many different wonderful artists up there, teachers, and they're up there. I know David Smith is going up there, I think, next week, but they have a bunch of really good teachers that they screen through, and but it's a good place to go. All right, so let's get going here. So I'm working on Stonehenge Aqua cold press, and this is the cold press. So there's a little texture to it. It's not mounted yet, so it is 300 pounds. So 300 pound, I don't have to mount and actually paint on it either, like if I'm doing it flat like this. But if you're outside painting plein air, you may want to put it on a panel first. And so I noticed they were talking a lot about that yesterday with gouache and stuff. But gouache and watercolor, I know Dan Mudlock was also doing a great demonstration, and he uses his watercolor and thing together. So watercolor and gouache are basically the same thing, except for the fact that one's opaque and one's transparent, and they do have different fillers in there that are a little bit different. But so let's see if anybody's actually here. And so if there's anybody here this morning, we have a couple of people. All right. Hopefully more people will join in. And also a lot of times people watch these not on Sunday morning because they're busy or sleeping. And so it's always there for you, and you can watch it at any time. So what I'm going to do is, if you see right here right there's my value study, and I know I just changed it to black and white, but this is what I do when I'm outdoor plein air painting too. I do it in my head. I basically squint my eyes, look for the large value patterns, and that's because to me after the drawing, that's like second most important, that I get a good value pattern so that I know where to paint light and what to paint dark. And so basically I'm going to paint the whole sky and the street all at once, so I'm just going to wet it. Let's just get right down to it. I did not clean out my palette from last Sunday, because I was away all week, and so it still has my drummer colors in it. And so here I'm just going to do the whole background. I'm just wetting the whole background with water. And I could use, if I used all gouache, like the stuff that you buy, the sets that you buy as gouache, I could do that and just use them very wet in the wet, or I can use my watercolors. And again, they both are watercolor. One is a little bit more opaque so that it covers, and then there's one, and you can mix them together. You can put them on your same palette if you want, but I usually use my other small palette, that's this one right here, and so that this saves them from drying out too much. Where the watercolors doesn't worry about that. Don't worry about it if you're using Holbein, because Holbein does not use oxgall, and that is something that makes your watercolors, when they dry, hard, and so it's hard to rejuvenate them. So here I'm going to use both of these, and you can use them together, gouache and watercolor, and it's all about if you want to make it so that you can't see through it and what you can see through. I'm just going to spray this because I spray this with like a mister. I just spray this on here just to keep them wet. I'll put on my palette, and Now let's just keep on wetting this whole thing. I'm wetting the whole thing because I'm doing my lights. And I kind of like the colors in the scene. Not exact colors, but it's very orange and kind of like an orange sunset sky. So it's you can consider this a nocturne because it seems like everybody does that now. It's no longer just the middle of the night. It's just from sunset to dawn. You know, it's like from sunset when the sun goes down, when you don't see the sun, and then also when it's coming up, but you still don't see the sun because I would think that it's not a nocturne if you see the sun. Nocturne to me is dark and no sun anymore that you can visually see. I should check up the definition of that one time because there's a lot of people that a lot of times they hand in stuff that I don't think are actually nocturnes. So let's go with a little bit of orange and gouache. Look at how much vibrant that is. It's so vibrant, that the gouache colors that they have. And see how I just had it, it's super still usable. And so I'm going to go with the orange down here, a little bit darker down here. And we go right to the buildings. The buildings, why? Because they're dark, right? And so get some of these colors in parts of the dark area too. So just let them float. I'm going to do some little yellow from gouache. And see how it's looking like watercolor because it's opaque? I mean, it's because it's transparent. So you don't have to use it gouache as opaque watercolor the whole time, unless that's your style, unless you use it like oil paints where you're maybe starting the darks first and then putting the thicker stuff on. I like still doing like a watercolor because I've always been a watercolorist, and even when I do my oils, I kind of start with the light and I make it thin so that I'm kind of lazy when it comes to making my soft edges. I don't like blending. I like for it to blend itself. Because if you wet gouache or if you wet watercolor, transparent watercolor, it's going to blend itself. See those soft edges to get it all on their own? And look at it, I can even go around these lights over here a little bit. And this sky is kind of like with a lot of clouds, and so you're seeing a lot of clouds in here. And bring this down because I'm down the street here a little bit. There's a lot of white in this, and so I'll do that too, because it's kind of a wet street, or it's a shiny street that, it's been driven over so many times that it's kind of like the surface is very slick. Put a little red down here. I'm a lot about soft edges, and if you would have seen that in my class, because I was talking to them all about this, how I really like soft edges and glowing edges. And I'm looking at Chin Cheng Wei, and boy, when I look at his work, it just astonishes me how soft edge everything he does, how soft edge he makes everything. I put little clouds in here, in the bottom here, just gonna put that in. If you have questions, please ask away. I think a lot of people who are in Gouache Live, and so that's how come they're not in here today. A lot of my friends who come usually every week, but I know a lot of them were on Gouache Live this week, and that was a long day. I watched a little bit of it, and after my little thing, my 10-minute video, which I'll be playing on Facebook and stuff in time. I'll be playing it again, talking about Holbein gouache. And here I'm gonna just put in some soft edges to make it look kind of cloudy, going around my lights here a little bit. I must have scraped this paper because I'm getting dots on this too. But this is Stonehenge Aqua, awesome paper. Dark underneath here. Looking for values, and now I'm using a little white in my dark here to get some of the clouds. And so I'm just going to kind of go in here and just let it mix with the orange to get the little cloud look. And it also dulls down my color a little bit so it's not so vibrant. Kind of pastels it up a little bit. And you can also use the white of the paper, which I am doing that too, but this just gives it a kind of a neat, dulls down the vibrancy of the color a little bit. And also makes a little bit of white entrance through the, like it's you're seeing through the clouds here and there. I can go over this part because this is going to be dark later, so I'm just kind of getting everything covered. Let me make I'm going to make it a little bit lighter down the bottom. I know it's not like that in the photo, but I think I'm going to try that a little bit more. Like the sun just went down, but it's a little bit lighter down here. Make it a little bit lighter down there. So this is white and yellow. And you notice I keep on working on the sky until I finish it. This is going to be done then. The sky is done after I go through and get all my little things happening. And then I'm done. Then I'm done with that. I don't go on that part anymore. I just get those colors in that I want. And I'm looking at this is a little bit darker. So how do you darken a orange? You can use this complement blue. So if I put a little blue in there, it'll darken it. So it'll gray it up. Gray is made with complements of the color that you're using. Like here was orange, and then you use this complement blue, and that'll dull it down. And look at how much time I have to working it. I have a lot of time for working it. Little clouds in there, a little bit darker, a little bit more blue in there. Makes it a little bit grayer. It also makes it kind of brownish. A lot of times certain colors become either brown or gray. A nice sky. Right through the telephone poles. Just getting all my colors in there that I need. Making it look like soft edge clouds. So this is a combination of watercolor and gouache coming out of the pigment as gouache or watercolor, but I'm using it like transparent watercolor, even the gouache. I'm going to put some of these darks in here right away in the street, big areas. I'm just going to get some of this down, and because it's wet, right? It's wet in the wet, so I'm just going to go in here and re-wet it here a little bit. And try to get some of the big areas done. These are the big areas. And actually it's not wet anymore, so I'm going to mist it a little bit. But see the part that is dry, it's kind of hard to miss an area that's dry because it's going to lay on top. And I kind of don't want that. I want it to go seep in. So you have to wash it with your brush. Because the mister is a mist of water. And it doesn't seep into the paper. So it doesn't give you that nice option of it. Like seeping into the paper so that it'll float your pigment. It doesn't give you that much water. It just takes the water that's already there and makes it more manageable. But if it's drier, then don't mist it. Use your brush, or you can mist it, but then take your brush over it so it pushes it into and kind of combines the water together. It's all about floating your pigment and just getting that pigment floating in there. And that gives you the soft edge. But if it's just sitting on top of the mist, then it's not going to float your pigment. It's really dark underneath here. I'm just taking colors from last week. Some of this blue and orange. Some of this orange in here is super bright. Gonna go underneath, we get the wheels of the cars. And it's going to be darker yet, but this is still my lights. These are my lights, but while this is wet, I need to get some of these darks in there. So I'm steps 1 and 2 are together this time. Trying to get some of these darks to kind of be soft edge. A little violet. Violet is a great color for brown because it kind of is that related to brown. This looks like a soft edge. And then I'm just going to make all this a little darker over here. because it's all about the light being right down here, right? And it's got that really beautiful look of soft edges. I try to get as many soft edges in as possible right from the get-go. Just get in there, get all those soft edges working for you. And all the lights, and they're soft edged, so that's wet in the wet. It's definitely a wet in the wet wash. And controlling your pigment is what I taught everybody this week, is to constantly, the thicker the pigment, the more you can control it in a wet wash. A little bit of blue in that orangey brown. That'll make it kind of a gray. And this is going down here, and see how nice and soft. You can push it around a little bit and give it that beautiful lines. And the nice thing is to try to get much of this as possible in the first wash. If you can get all that beautiful softness, I mean, you can get it again later, but it's a little bit harder because then you're gonna wet everything. And these lines on the street, there's one light on right here when I do my darks, that I will put them in with white paint. You can do it with gouache too. I mean, not with gouache, but you can do it with gouache, definitely. But you can also do it with masking fluid. And since this is orange, this needs to be a little bit more blue. I'm going to have a more, well, it actually is a warmer foreground. Let's make it a little bit warmer. And remember, it's going to dry about 20% lighter, so... And I can re-wet this whole thing again, but... The thing is, I kind of want to try to get as much as possible on that first wash. It just looks nice when you're doing that. Looks very clean when it settles down. And like I said, I'm going to make these white lines with gouache, so I notice they're a little bit cooler down here. So I'm just going to put some cool color in there. And that's basically all my lights now. All my lights that I wanted to use for the first wash are pretty much in there. Here we have this red, and that comes from, there's some lights up there that looks like, it comes from a light that may be up here somewhere. So that's the pole. Here's something red in there, and then you just bring it down. And this is already dry, so it's not going to blend very well. So I'm going to not do that then. Let's bring this down here a little bit. Blend it, blend it, blend it, and you don't have to really blend it. You just let it sit there in the water, and it'll blend itself together. Except for right there, where there's no water. I could spray a little bit right there. There we go. Missed it a little bit, and that'll just let it blend a little bit. See, a little bit more water on there now, and I'll blend it all together. And again, these are my lights. Don't have to worry about them, and now they're done basically. And so let's just get this here. A lot of these orange will be reflected here on the bottom. I should get a little bit more of that in there, just because it should float from above. This, and a lot of this is going to be dark, so I'm just kind of putting in the light so that then when I get my darks in there, I will go around them to show and release the lights that are still underneath. To make this a little bit bluer so that the orange and blue are complements, so I get a little bit of that blue in there. They're going to be silhouetted basically. Looks like this car is a white car, so let's just get some of the lights on the cars. This is the light part of the cars, and I'll go back in with the darks. Any questions, just ask away. Alright, so that's pretty much it for my lights now, and my color scheme. Color scheme basically is blue and orange. It's pretty obvious on that. Yellow and violets too. There's a little yellow in there, so you can add a little bit of violet to your blue. A little bit of violet. There's my gouache, which will cover a little bit better. And you notice I've covered up the lights, the headlights. And that's because I will put them in with white paint. And You could put masking down for the perfectly white of the paper, but again, I'm very lazy when it comes to that, and so I just don't do that. Here on the side, we're gonna do a little bit of that. It's so neat when it's damp that you can just real lightly take a dry brush kind of look, and then you can kind of meld some of the lines, get some lines, and just they will even go together when it's damp. It'll just still give you a soft edge. It's just I have hardly any water on my brush, and I'm taking the water down there and melding the things together, kind of wisping them to let those washes meld themselves together. It's so funny how popular the gouache is, but watching some of those people doing the gouache, they're doing it either as an oil or as like the style of an oil or acrylics where it's thick, or they do it as a watercolor. Except for Dan Mudlock was the only one I saw that did it as a watercolor and then just moved into the gouache at the same time, kind of like what I'm doing, and using them together so that it's not that big a deal when you're using them both. And so I'm just stalling here to let this dry a little bit, and then I'll start getting my big mediums and my big darks. And I'll go from the background forward. And so let's get this side done here. And I like to use my rectangular flat brush because this is a rectangular building, so it's easy to get the corners. So I'm going to go right away in there and get some really dark darks. I check it with the back of my hand to make sure it's dry. And so this sky is pretty much dry. It's cold and it feels damp, but I can tell that it's not going to flow my pigment. It's dry enough to take a nice big swatch of color. And I'm going to take some black and some whatever's on my palette here. I'm just going to go in there, take a lot of dark colors, and make them. This seems like a warm background, cool foreground. Though I've kind of got it the other way around. Actually, the darks are cool in here, and then the back here, there's the sun and the sky is engulfing that, so that's a little bit redder. Excuse me for a second. Cheers, everybody. Gotta get my first morning cup of coffee. So I'm going to go in here now with this really nice dark, and I'm just going to create this building. See how it's dark? And as soon as you apply the paint to the surface, if it's not dry, it will right away, as soon as you touch it, it will start bleeding. So if you can see that it's not bleeding, then you're good to go. If it is starting to sit there and make a watermark, then stop. Don't keep on going, because that means it's not dry enough yet. Just let it dry a little bit. And I'm going to go around the edges of the bus here, and then the very lines I can put in with white paint later on, but there's a bunch of lines here together, and so I'm going to kind of negative paint around them. So there's the bus's mirror. And so I'm going to, now this is wet, I put other colors in there too, so I float other colors within that area. And then this a lot back here is a lot of lines for this for the pine tree or palm trees. I mean, put a little blue in there too. Why not? Let's see, put a little blue. And look at, I'm using gouache. I used a little bit of the gouache because I have my palette here today. You can also use your watercolors and use white with them and make them a little bit thicker, when not a real lot thicker, but a little bit thicker, so that you can put it on really where it's opaque. You can do that with your watercolors. It's actually possible, but you just can't make them really thick because it's not made for that. Now this is really, really dark, right? And so let me put a little black in here, a little bit of red, black. I want it to be really dark. And then later on what I'll do is I will do some harder edged things with thicker paint, with actual gouache. Now this is what I plan on doing next year when I'm painting my own things. I'm going to sit in the studio and do a lot of, I'm going to try to paint as much as I can next year. Where I'm in my studio or plein air painting, and just I've always wanted to be able to do that, where I just paint, and see if I can create a style that's to do with gouache and watercolor together, and come up with something that looks a little bit different from what normal watercolorists or gouache artists or haven't done kind of yet. We'll see. I'm not sure if that's possible, but we'll see. I'll use my round brush here to get the palm trees, and they have pretty much orange on the edges, and so I'll go with that first. I'll go with the orange and just kind of flick some look of palm trees with the fronds and stuff, and so this is the orange, the lighter color that's on the edges, and then I'll go back in with some black or some really dark colors to capture the really dark parts of it. Here's a telephone pole, there's wires, and then I'll get a little darker inside. See, I'll just take black and purple and brown and get a really nice dark inside that the lights, and just kind of just put in all kinds of nice flicking. Now these are wires, and so I'm just going to go across it to make it look like wires. I'm negative painting the wires. Can you believe I'm negative painting the wires? Alright, so there's the background already. And then I'll just keep it going. I'm going to leave the cars alone. I'm just going to go in here and also get some soft edged looking poles and just whatever I think looks right there. And maybe even some color. Let's put some color in here. Let's put some maybe blue in there. Because there's going to be things happening in there that you don't even know what they are, because it's a photo. And speaking of photos, I've been thinking about that because I was watching yesterday, and there's a lot of people think there is a huge difference between you working from a photograph and working outside, because you learn a lot from when you're outside for colors and things like that. But photos are just a reference. They're if you start memorizing things that you're painting, then it doesn't matter if you're working from a photo or from outside, because you've learned and you've studied it and you've kind of memorized what objects look like, what colors they are. And that's one thing that I feel that I have produced for myself when I became an illustrator, because everything I do is from my imagination. When I was working for all those years, and so now when I'm looking outside, I memorize it, and if I'm working from a photograph that I took from outside, then I already seen it, and I've kind of memorized it, and I don't know if they even put marks down in my book, because I just remember what the look is. I know I photographic memory then of the object that I'm painting, and not every little thing, but that's where the photo helps me out, because then I can remember some of the things that I have. So having a photograph later on when I'm in the studio and painting it from a photograph, I still remember what I did out there, or I still look at it, especially if I'm painting it, and then I come in and I do the painting from a photograph. So that's just a reference, and that's just a tool. And so I still think that all students should learn how to memorize objects that they are drawing, and that's what I'm going to be hopefully teaching. If anything, next year, that's probably the only thing I'll be teaching. I'm not going to be doing workshops, but I will be doing probably a 2-month course online that you will draw every day for whatever amount of time you can handle, and you're going to learn how to start memorizing what you saw and memorizing the lights and darks and everything about the picture. Because then you don't have to worry about if you're working from a photograph or if you're working from plein air and working outside and seeing the real thing. Because if you memorize it, then you kind of know what it is in the photograph that doesn't look real and what does look real. It's helped me so much with with my job. For one, that was my job, to just paint anything that the art director would ask me to paint or draw. I mean, for the storyboards. But it works really well for drawing, and especially for outdoors when things move or lights change and stuff. If you have a photographic memory on memorize what you saw, and it's not to a T. It's like you don't get to see everything like exactly like a photo, but it does just generalize things, and that's when I'm painting. I'm generalizing anyways, kind of going in here and getting the big parts first, right? And then I get more and more detailed as I go along. All right, speaking of big parts, that's not a big part. So let's go right over here now and get our big buildings over here. I'll use my big brush again, and just going to go in there. And it looks like this is, so even the main pole, this is a main pole that goes on here, and so I'm just going to bring that down. I'm using my brush sideways and pushing hard, and it'll give me that dimension of this pole. And I probably should have done this building first next to it, because that is going to be a little bit lighter than this pole, so I can just go over this like this a little bit. And then just go from light to dark. I'm going to go around this sign. I know there's a sign here that's a little bit lighter. Actually, let's go through it, because it's going to have to be, this is a light right now. This is a light from the dark. That's not even really dark. So I'm going to go get this light first. Now it's all wet. Now I go in there and design it. I design it. Oh, look at that gouache, how powerful that is. I must say, Holbein gouache is so finely ground. It's so vibrant. It's overly vibrant because this is a lot of pigment. Look at that blue I have in my palette right now. That's just a little bit of the ultramarine blue that I picked up, and it's like, wow. And actually some that's Prussian blue in there too. So look at how dark that gets and how much pigment is in there, and how it, when you put in a wash, it gives me so much pigment to put down. Go right through these people, because these are people that are going to be dark. Go right down to the bottom here. This is the pole that's down here. And then I just get darker and darker. And this is the soft edge part of it first. Oh my gosh, there's questions up there. No? Good morning, guys. Good morning, Pat, Maria. Hey, Sherry. It was a great day of painting yesterday. Yeah, it was. I didn't watch the whole time because I had a bunch of stuff to do. No problem, Pat. You can pick it up anytime afterwards. Watch for a little bit and then just come back. And so, see, that's like a middle tone. That's not my dark darks. That's my middle tone. And so I'll go on top of that with a really dark to capture like the pole. Here's, I'm going to take a black. And look at it, man, it's amazing, the gouache, how powerful it is, how much pigment gets used and look at how it covers. It covers dynamically. I mean, that is just a little bit. I touched in there very little bit into the gouache, and I'm using it transparently, but it's amazing the quality of the medium when it's like what Holbein does for that. It just covers up. And that's what opaque watercolor is supposed to do. It's supposed to cover up. And look at, there's Prussian blue. My gosh, that's just amazing how little pigment I dip in there, and the concentration of pigment and the color, the vibrancy of the color is just phenomenal. And here's black with this is actually watercolor black, and so it's a little bit lighter down here. I'm using water to keep everything nice and soft edged. I will put a little bit of watercolor orange now into my wash, and you can use them both together. Use them together. It is fine to use them together. Absolutely fine to use them together. If you want a thick surface where it's gonna stay that value. There's one thing about gouache. I know that some people were saying that yesterday, but some people didn't talk about that. That the watercolor will be lighter because it's light coming through it, And then the gouache, though, when you're using it thick, doesn't change that much because it's thick and it's covering up. It's covering up the white of the paper. And it doesn't change if you use watercolor with it either. It's still you still have gouache in there. So here I should use my $1.25. Let's go on this way because this side's dry, and so I'm going to take it, lay it down flat because it's a little bit the black part is a little bit higher. So I'm just going to go in here and get make it a little bit straighter. And then when it gets down here, I'm going to mess it up a little bit. This is part of the building. It's amazing how dark you can keep stuff when you're using gouache with your watercolor. I totally recommend it now. I recommend you use both together. Why not? You know, some things you can do then so that it just becomes more opaque. Unless you're using it for transparent watercolor society, don't use any of it at all, because that's gonna get your painting disqualified. There's another pull right here. I'm not gonna try to be too careful with this part over here. It's gonna go in here now and just get some look of the building, get the perspective. And if you don't see something in the photo, then why would you try to identify it? Or if you're out there and you see everything, when you're out there, your eyes are very good, hopefully, your eyes, or if you have glasses on, but you see everything in focus because your eyes can focus really quickly on certain areas that you look at. But like this area shouldn't be in focus because it's not your center of interest. And back there, it's not you don't need to put all the detail in there. You just like to get the center of interest so that really stands out. And once you get that all going, that's fine because that's your center of interest. But the other parts, leave alone. You don't need to put all the interest in there. The bottom of this bus is dark and it kind of goes up. And I squint my eye at the photo when I'm painting. I squint my eye at this and look for the darks. There's a little fence kind of thing. Then I'm going to show what this is. Oh, that's the person's legs. And then these people are going to be put in, and I'm going to put them in silhouette-like. There's his head. And he's soft edge right now because it's all wet, and that's fine. I don't need him to be hard edged. He's part of the center of interest, but he's away. And it's not about him. It's about the whole scene and being the bus covered up. And then there's also the reflection in the street from him. And I'm while working in a damp area. So this is very damp, and so I can get all soft edged. I don't have to ever stop. I can just keep on going. Get all this working. And the thicker my paint is, the thicker I put it on to the paper, the less it's going to bleed. Because even though it's wet, if I'm using it thick, here's that little sign. And I will put that in later also with a dark. Oh, there's actually a lot of pulls right here. A lot of stuff happening right here. Goes down, there's a little pull right there. This is the guy's legs. This is another guy standing over here. I'm just using black watercolor. So if I'm using black watercolor there, it'll show through a little bit because if I have dark behind it, then it shows a little bit dark behind it. I have to leave. Put that person in there too. Then we've got that pole should be a little bit into the street too. But this is all dry now, so I'm going to take a little wash across it to keep it wet. So that I can get some soft edges. I only get my hard edges when it's at the very end. I want my hard edges to be at the very end, so that's when you see them. All right, so let's take some of these dark, and this parts are pretty dark, and so if you want to get a little color in there, you can, but it's more important that they stay really nice and dark. And look at this, I'm doing straight lines with it, my big huge brush. But it's very thin, and when it comes to the point on this brush, look at how thin it gets. It gets super thin, and so it's nice to use the edge of it to get my hard edge, my big lines. Or small lines, and underneath the bus is pretty dark. I was telling my class yesterday, I have a Saturday class in McHenry, and I was telling them if I get stranded on a desert island, this is the one I'm going with. This is my Wilson. I'll be talking to this guy because I can do the whole painting with this one brush, because I can do it really thin. I can go in here, get real thin lines with the edge of it. And I can also get really thick lines and really do big washes with it. So this is my go-to brush. So yeah, I can just go in there, use the edge of it, and because it's really thin, I can make a line across by just tapping, by dabbing. And so now I'm basically into my dark details. And we're going to put a little bit of this line in there again. A little of this. And see, this is wet now, so it's all going to be softening up. You can also put down a brush of color and then soften it by putting water on top of it. Let's see, any more questions? No? Okay. I haven't looked at the time. Oh, we still got time. So the front of this brush has a little bit of red, so here's some gouache red. I'm just going to put that across here. And I've got to put my white in there later for the headlights, and so I'll do that later. You can also brush across things with a dry brush and get some texture. With the dry paper, you can get some texture with the paper, because this is I am using cold press, so I can get texture by just rubbing across the paper quickly, or going across the paper quickly. I'm picking up the texture of the paper. What I can also do is make the street look wetter by just taking some lines through here, like that, like before the cars that went before. I can kind of just go like this and kind of make it look like the cars went through this area already. And there are some lines on the street, but I don't like them. I don't like the lines, the white lines on the street, so I'm instead gonna kind of just put lines going in here, very light, to look like lines that where the traffic already went through, because that makes it less water. And then some back and forth this way. Light brush strokes. All right, detail for the windows. Inside the car is dark. Inside the window is dark. Even if the car is black, like this one right here, it still is. The front of the car will be dark, except for the headlights. And inside the window is usually dark because it's dark inside. You don't really see inside. It's not lit up inside, so it's dark when it's like that for the nocturne, I guess you can call this. And this one you're going to see a little bit of through it, and so you're going to see the seats, the steering wheel a lot of times, and I like to put a mirror in the center. The side window, same thing. I'm leaving a little bit of the side open, and then there is the mirror that usually is a little bit darker. And then I'll go and do the middle tones of the car itself, the color of the car itself. The hood is usually light, so I leave the hood alone. I leave the hood alone so that I can capture the color of the car. In front is dark. The side is usually light because it's coming from the side, right? The light. Then underneath the car is definitely dark because it's a shadow underneath the car. The wheel wells are dark. There is part of the wheel that is the rim of the wheel, or there's a tire, which is the actual tire, and then there's the wheel, which is actually the rim. That's a wheel, because the tire is a tire, the wheel's the wheel, and sometimes the wheel always is black. The wheels are black. The tire the tire is always black. The wheel sometimes is different colors, or depending on what kind of. They're usually really shiny, though I've seen black ones, and so it's all whatever you can see in your photo. And if you have to make it up, always think to yourself, like, what's mostly what happens in that? Is it mostly the wheels? Are they mostly silver and light? Yeah. So you make them light. So the wheel itself around here is light, and then the tire is dark. That's usually what happens. So if it doesn't show that in the photo, then you memorize that, you know that. You just put it in the way you know it, the way it normally is. Go with what's normal. When it's not normal, then it's hard to show that, because then it becomes something different that normally doesn't happen. Yeah, when you're thinking from your imagination, you go with the normal, the regular, what mostly happens. If you start going with odd things, then that's harder to do, because then you have to really explain it and really draw it in well, because that to make it look like what you're trying to explain in your picture. So this in front, this car is blue, but not bright blue. Just I'm gonna take a little bit of blue and give it a shadow. And it's probably even white, and it's just reflecting cool in the front here, and it goes back. And then there's going to be a lot. This is metal, so it's shiny. So there'll be a lot of sparkling white on there. But I don't get that with painting around. I can do some of it, but most of it's going to be done with white paint. I'll go back with white paint and get that all looking really cool. This granulating is I wrecked the paper. It looks like granulation, but sometimes if you scrape the paper, I kind of damage this paper by scraping it against something, and so that is not granulation. That's just the bad paper. But I did that to it. I know I did that to it, because this is a piece of paper I had in my portfolio for a while, and every time you scrape something against it, it's gonna maybe do that to the paper. A good observation. And it does look like granulating, so that's good, I guess. I take my small brushes, get these light poles, wires. There's a lot of wire. That's why I picked this, is because of all the wires and the lighting. I like the lighting on this thing. And I also wanted to show about darks and how, get the darks, get them really well. And there's all kinds of stuff happening in here. So I'm going to just take solid black of watercolor, and I'm just going to go in there. And the reason I used black watercolor, because I don't want it to be all really thick. I want some seeing through some of this black. I don't need to have it all like super, opaque. I can just let some of it bleed through. And so that's why sometimes I use the watercolor black, because that is transparent. Now I'm putting a little bit darker right across here to get that nice pole right here. And there's a sign right here, and so I'm just going to put that in there. There's a couple other signs here too, but those I'm going to put in with white paint. I'm going to put a little mark here for the light fixture, and then I'm going to use white paint to make it really light. Use my rigger again for the lines, and I do a little flick of the wrist basically to get those in there. You can also use pencil, you can use the pencil line, but I find I want to do it with watercolor, so. And there's a lot of lines all over this painting. And these ones I go across, I do one shot. I just kind of go boom. You can erase the pencil lines then too later on, but I just kind of keep them there. So I get close. And the wetter the brush and the thinner, when you see how I'm going really thin, now these are tough. I'm gonna go from here. Just kind of stop. Go from here. And I didn't quite get them what I drew, so, but that's okay. There's these lines, I put them together, right? It's like, these are for the streetcars, which these buses don't use that. And it's probably old, they're probably old wires. I could get thinner with these lines. I kind of made them kind of thicker than I'd like, but practice that. Practice with your brush to kind of get really thin lines. Now we're going to put people in the bus. The edge is pretty dark right here. It kind of goes down dark. And so I'm basically doing details now. I'm just getting things to look real, to what they are. Just trying to get in there. I'm getting ready for my white paint. And the car should be a little bit darker too. I'm kind of use my quarter inch flat. Gonna go in here and get these lines on the side of the car. I'm just using dirty palette color. And dirty palette color is the best color, I swear, because it's all you've been using, and so you just get in there and touch up with your dirty colors. So these are colors that you used on your painting, so you know they're gonna match in there. And this car right here on the side is pretty dark in the front. And I also, as I put in the white, you're going to see it reflect really, but you can also do some really dark darks, like black. You can put some really dark hits of black to make it look detailed. It's like highlights. I call them dark highlights because it's nice to get a hit of really dark, especially right next to where the light's going to be. And here, back here, there's like these swatches of really dark black. And I don't have any of the colors of the headlights yet, or the taillights. Taillights are red, so I'm going to take pure gouache because I want to cover. I'm just going to put that on the back of the car. And then I can also reflect into the street. And in most cars in front, they have a really bright orange lamp on the front underneath the headlight. There's usually orange, but if it looks a little red, that's fine too. Like a yellowish. Oh, I just totally messed that up. Yeah, now I'm making it even worse. And then this will be in there. Just reflects in the street a little bit. Isn't that fun doing details? Details are so much fun. This guy can have a red, maybe he's got red on the driver. Some black in there too, so it's just really dark highlights. The sign is kind of bluish for the stops that he makes, right? Up here, I'm just going to go across that with a little blue. The head, maybe a little bit. Okay, we're almost ready for white. Actually, some really dark for the people here again. They got kind of lost. Round brush is a little bit better for that. A little gouache so it covers that really well. Wow, it covers too well. The gouache that Holbein makes is just phenomenal when it comes to the opacity without using white. I'm not sure what they put in it. I know they grind it finer, but man, it's just some amazing gouache. I would highly recommend you get if you are going to use gouache, I highly recommend that you get Holbein. They make some unbelievably good gouache. And you gotta watch because a lot of the other companies use whitening agents, and that really makes it pastel-y. And as you can see, there is no white in their. There's no white in their gouache, except for they want a color that they're making to look like a pastel color. Then yes, They do have white in those. And putting hits of really dark. Now, okay, 4 minutes. Now I'm going to show you the white. I'm going to take my first big part of white and do these street, the crosswalk, and get them in there. So I'm going to wet my white. And you always should put new white in your palette. Let me just do that right now. I'm going to put a little bit of pure white, new, fresh, because you really do need to. It's one thing about white. It gets harder. And so I'm using pure white. And I'm just going to put in these highlights that I want to put in there. And basically there's a light right here, so I'm just going to put in a light right there. I'm just putting in dots now for headlights, and then I will show you how to put water on them to make them bleed a little bit. And then that will go against these things. So I'll put them in there, and that's just the highlight of the... I don't want to use pure white for the crosswalk because it's like in shadow. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at how nice that looks, isn't it? It's amazing. It just covers right up. And I find it looks more real if I'm using the gouache instead of using masking fluid, because masking fluid will make that really, really white of the paper that I had before. So this is, now I'll use pure white where this light is coming here. I'm just going to go like this. Make it a little bit whiter. Just pure white. And then for that, I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. I'm just going to add water around it. Oops. I'm just going to add water and let it bleed out. See, or what you can do is, on these, I can just let it put water against it. Just putting water against the outer edge. And of course, I picked up some of the red too. You can also use an airbrush or a atomizer and blow a little bit of the light in there too, but that's too much for me. Here, a little bit of light going down. Wisp it here. The lights are in the street then. Lights go right into the street. And just look at the picture. Where's my lights? Where are my lights hitting? Top of this fence. Maybe I'll put some lines here. I'm going to put it on top of the car. And there's definitely a lot of light on the side of the car, because it's shiny. And so you're going to get all these little lights and the wheels and on the street. Especially back here where it's really light. Now I got that gray that I put in there, so just pick up pure white. That's like I'm going to do it fresh. So it's nice and pure. And if you don't want it pure, that's where you put it when it's like not a pure white. It's just like if you have like grays and stuff. The sign is actually dark, but inside here we want to make it maybe a little bit. Top of them, they usually are on the top of the shoulders. Looks like this guy's carrying a suitcase. Now my rigger brush. I can also put a little bit of this gray white and then put it in the street also. 1 minute left. So, anywhere you see it, that's okay. You can put a little bit right here. And I can also wisp it across the paper and make it look textury, right? Here we have a headlight right in there, so we're just going to put that down. Headlights are not bright enough because I put water on them, so I'm putting them on again. All right, I think that's it, guys. So, wet in the wet, wet on dry. Learn to do soft edges. Use dark enough colors. You know, you really get in there. Put it down, and don't worry about using black if you put in color with it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine using black because some of these things are that dark. They are black, and so don't be afraid of using that. Here I'm going to use black. I just noticed the tires are not dark enough. Just going to go underneath there. All right. So, have fun with gouache if you do get gouache. There's a set. Excuse me. I showed a set in my thing yesterday of 5 colors, and that is almost enough. Black, white, primary red, primary blue, and primary yellow. Get those colors, and you can make them all. And so there's my Sunday demo with David. And if you like it, please subscribe or like it. All right, hit the like button. It helps me out a lot when it comes to getting you guys to watch and getting it out there. Because otherwise, the YouTube doesn't bring it out to everybody else. It hides there. I'm just gonna put a little light right here. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. If you have any last questions, please put them in the description, into the comments. That is not the comments as the chat, but ask away. All right. Have a great rest of this Sunday, and we'll see you on Tuesday in my newsletter, and then on Thursday. I'm hoping to do it Thursday what we were going to do last Thursday, but I couldn't because of not getting good Wi-Fi.